morning, everyone. Well, I knew this day would arrive. I just didn't know when. I know I'm only standing here today because you're standing there. It takes a community to build a community. And this 21-year journey has been filled with highs and lows, right turns and left turns and U-turns, and many lessons we've learned because of you and because of your help. Let me share a few of those with you. We've got about 5, although there are more, but about 5 for this morning. Lesson number 1, build a trusted team that can agree and agree to disagree. Real estate of this magnitude and complexity and innovation is not for the lighthearted. You always need to know who's in your corner. And I am most grateful to the First Place AZ Board of Directors, Advisory Board, Capital Campaign Cabinet, our SARC Board of Directors and staff, people who have been hearing about First Place, well, for about 20 years. And our co-founder of SARC, Dr. Ron Melmed, who started this journey with me upon our son's diagnosis and who's never given up. Lesson number 2. Invest early in research and discovery to inform your vision. We learned a lot from the private sector and marketplace. We learned that there is not a one-size-fits-all approach to housing. There's much work to be done, but what we did through First Place is what's attainable today. But as I'm reminded constantly, we're not stopping here. What we really need to do is to create a marketplace. Our big vision for First Place is to ensure that housing and community options are as bountiful for people with autism and other special differences as they are for everyone else. And that's required, that involves us all. Special thanks to the Urban Land Institute Arizona and Arizona State University, who studied with us over 100 different properties across the country, who came up with design goals and guidelines, which you'll experience today. Families and many of you who participated in focus groups and national design charrettes, and thank you, Director Traylor, for making some of those visits with us firsthand on the places that we traveled and the things that we could see. And I was also reminded by Director Traylor often when we hit a roadblock, well, Denise, he'd say, you just need to get the smartest people in the room and figure it out. And that's all of you. Lesson number 3, don't fall in love or marry your plan too soon. Now, we had been visioning First Place for a very long time, and I hear a little laughter out there. There is the all-important value engineering when those prices come back and you have a wish list that included an underground parking garage and lots of design goals and guidelines, all of which were super expensive. Thanks to that value engineering process, we shaved $3 million from this property. This property that you're standing before is a $15.4 million, 81,000 square foot property, very competitive in terms of construction costs in our marketplace. And special thanks to Hardison Downey Construction, led by Pat Downey, who as a fellow pioneer on this journey of having a son with autism started dreaming with me years ago. And very special thanks to RSP Architects, led by Mike Duffy, as our lead architect who led the team for the design. And then our zoning council, we weren't expecting to need any, but that value engineering required 2 zoning variances, led by Lazarus. And then we had our public and private sector financial team, led by Jim Howard of Dudley Ventures, Clearinghouse CDFI, First Place Financial Facility, and US Bank. And then, of course, our philanthropic donors, which gave us the equity in the deal, who worked with us at all levels. And they're recognized throughout the property, and please take note of who they are, with a very special thanks this morning to 2 of those, Blue Cross Blue Shield of Arizona, standing with us always, and Cox Communications, connecting us always to our bigger community. And Sprouts, who make sure that we have a healthy breakfast this morning, and we hope you enjoy the Sprouts Organic Garden. I would be remiss to not tell you that opportunities are still available for sponsorship, so please track me down. I'd love to talk to you about them. Okay, lesson number 4. Appreciate that timeouts are not just for kids. The importance of public-private, nonprofit collaboration sometimes requires that we slow down a little bit. We think a little more strategically. We think about what's attainable today and then what we can do next, not trying to do everything all at once. And thankfully, our board of directors called a big timeout after we had completed, approved plans from the city. They said, if it's not economically viable, we're not going to have something to replicate and expand in the future. And all those levels of government, special thanks for the people joining us today and all those who you represent, starting with the state of Arizona and former Arizona Department of Housing Director and current Director of Economic Security, Michael Traylor, Arizona State Representative Leila Alston, Arizona State Representative Jay Lawrence, and Assistant DDD Director Maureen Casey. Thank you so much for all the lessons you've been teaching us along the way. At the county, our County Board of Supervisor Chairman, Steve Chukri, our Assistant County Manager and Chief Financial Officer, Shelby Scarbo, members of the Maricopa IDA Board of Directors who are here today, and our friends and donors and champions from the Salt River Pima Maricopa Indian community, led by President Delbert Ray, Vice President Martin Javier, and Councilman Tom Largo. And then, of course, from the most autism-friendly city in the world, led by Mayor Thelda Williams, District 4 Councilwoman Laura Pastor, and former District 8 Councilwoman and Phoenix mayoral candidate Kate Gallego, our good friend and city manager Ed Zucker, Deputy Chief Fire Frank Solomon, Equal Opportunity Director Don Logan, Planning and Development Director Alan Stevenson, and our friends from the Phoenix IDA led by Juan Salgado. Okay, lesson number 5. Explore treasures in your own backyard. I told you, we researched properties and traveled everywhere. We were looking for something that didn't exist. It wasn't going to exist until we created it. Something that represented innovation, something that we could call home, a place where we would want to live, not just place our individuals with special needs. Well, Phoenix is my home. Proud to be born and raised here. And the community treasures that have been part of my family, part of my upbringing, part of Central Avenue, have been my greatest treasures and the opportunity to really build and create community. The greatest treasure is my family. My parents, Matt's grandparents, Grammy Patty and Papa Herb, who encouraged my sister Debbie and me to never stop dreaming when we were kids. Thank you, Mom and Dad. And to Aunt Debbie, who was the first person I saw before 7 a.m., who has been SARC's first place's first volunteer, who never stops giving all hours of the day and night. You make it really hard for me to be an auntie, and you really raise expectations. Thank you, sis. And to my husband, Rob, where are you, Rob? There you are, honey. 32 years who put up with all these highs and lows and all the crazy hours and long nights and even longer mornings, who kept us living and laughing along the way and always made sure Matt was our North Star. Thank you. And to Uncle Mark Schwartz, who spent every day here at First Place while under construction, long before we broke ground and most days since. Mark served as a First Place Board of Directors development representative, making sure we stayed on track. Bravo, Mark. Thank you. We're raising the bar on possibilities and shining a bright light on our community. We're hoping for, we're praying for, we're committed to more promising trends focused on life course outcomes, and we're so excited to share it all with you today. Let me tell you a little bit about this morning's program. We do have some wonderful speakers to share their thoughts and comments. We also have a celebration, and part of the celebration is blowing away right now. So just be surprised when we pull the string, if you would. We also have self-guided tours, and so please, we have ambassadors throughout First Place so that will help you find your way and learn more about what's inside and why it's inside. And starting this morning, I'd like to introduce our speakers, and starting with one of our firsties, Lindsay Eaton, who'll share a little bit more with you about her journey here to First Place. Mayor Williams, who started joining us at those SARC breakfasts years ago and have been traveling this journey with us. Supervisor Chukri, who made sure the heart of our home, our kitchen, had everything that it would need, and that individuals could learn how to take care of themselves and live more independently, and started this journey also years ago from SARC. And then Director Traylor, who made sure we stopped talking about things and start doing them. And just last week when we were meeting and talking about the need for employment, and I proudly stated the goal, well, Director Traylor, we're committed to generating 1,000 jobs for people with autism and other special needs and those who support them by 2025. He looked at me and he said, Denise, that's not high enough. Okay, Director Traylor, game on. And then I'd like to start with Adam Goodman, who's president and CEO of Goodman's Interior Structures, a member of our First Place Capital campaign, and who truly led the charge and led by example on our in-kind support, and who is a very dear friend. Adam?
Good morning. Over the past 2 years, I have talked to dozens of business leaders about what we're doing here at First Place. And for the most part, everyone was very generous with their time and often with their resources. I think on one hand, that says a lot about Phoenix. It's a very friendly city. People are very nice to each other. The sun's always shining. We get along and return phone calls. That's nice. But in another sense, I think it says a lot about how the entire community of Phoenix has rallied around autism. We don't see autism as something that happens to some cousin that lives in some other city. We've been educated for 20 years by the outreach of SARC and by a whole lot of breakfasts. By the way, I think I recognize everybody here. I've seen you at a breakfast. It's good to see you again. Welcome back. To us, autism is a giant resource, a reservoir of untapped potential and talent that's just waiting to be tapped if we can just unlock it right. It's an economic driver. Just as you say, 1,000 jobs, that's just the beginning of what this is. I wonder if there's any community anywhere in the country that's embraced a single public health issue the way Phoenix has embraced autism. I choose to spend my time and energy on First Place because I see autism as a looming public health crisis that otherwise is going to fall to the government exclusively to resolve. And that's not going to work very well. This scale of this needs a capitalist free market solution to solve this, and that's what this represents. This building behind me is proof that capitalism can be a force for good and a for-profit business can have societal benefits. It's a way of thinking about business called conscious capitalism. Conscious capitalism has two primary tenets. Number one is you're thinking about the long term instead of the short term. So not in terms of days and weeks and months and quarters, but in terms of years and multiple years and even decades. And number two, you're thinking about all your stakeholders. The owners of a company, the investors, that's one stakeholder. But a conscious capitalism company is thinking about all the stakeholders that are interdependent on the organization. The employees, the customers, the suppliers, the government, the public health. I'd assert that public health is a legitimate stakeholder of a business. And what you may not know is that conscious capitalism, Phoenix is a hotbed of activity for conscious capitalism. I'll give you 2 data points on that. One is there are 40 chapters of conscious capitalism all over the world. The 3rd one in the world is right here in Phoenix. That's pretty exciting. And number 2, I'm pleased to announce that in 2019, the annual conference for conscious capitalism is going to be here in Phoenix, not Austin or San Francisco, going to be right here in Phoenix. It's going to be 1,000 business leaders descending upon our town to learn more about what's going on here. That's pretty exciting. We are still putting together the team to assemble this and attract people to attend. So if you want to participate, please come see me. That's a commercial message right in the middle of all this. I'm sorry about that. I couldn't help myself. I distinctly remember the very first time I heard this vision almost 20 years ago about what First Place is going to become. And you're right, there was a lot of iterations of this thing. It certainly wasn't in Midtown Phoenix, I can tell you that. And that, to me, that's the most inspiring thing to see here is this idea that a vision can rally an entire community to get something huge like this done. It's so very exciting. And as exciting and as heartwarming and as gratifying as this is to me, there's something next that's coming that's got me even more excited about it. I talk to Denise about this often. I have this vision of a multifamily developer who's in Cincinnati, Ohio, and he's got his own capital that he wants to put at risk. He's an entrepreneur. And I don't know why he's in Cincinnati, by the way, other than it's far away and it's a fun word to say. I think those are the only two criteria I've got for this guy in Cincinnati. And he's looking and he's thinking to himself, he does a market assessment. He says, well, there's a lot of apartments here in Cincinnati. I can do that, but I'm a conscious capitalist company. I have declared public health as one of my stakeholders. And so here's a blueprint for a business plan for First Place. And I can do this here in Cincinnati. That's when I'm going to get excited. And then a developer in Schenectady, which is also a fun word to say, he's going to do the same thing. And that's how this thing scales, by entrepreneurs taking risks and building this thing. And that's what's got me really inspired and excited. So thank you very much for your contribution to this. Congratulations to you. And Mike, please come on up.
Well, good morning, everybody. You know, it seems like yesterday that we were standing on a dirt lot and we were all looking up. And today, First Place is a reality. You know, every worthwhile challenge needs a champion. And in Phoenix, Arizona, we're blessed to have Denise Resnick. For decades, Denise has been leading the challenge to help people with autism live independent lives. And it's been one of the greatest blessings in my life to work alongside you, Denise, and see the reality of your vision here today. Looking back on our journey, as Denise said, after attending many of the wonderful SARC breakfasts where we seemed to laugh and cry at the same time, I met Denise in the lobby and said, Denise, we're going to stop talking about this and start doing something. And so the next gathering was in a small office in the SARC office building down in Van Buren. There was Denise and Danny and Paige and Jerry. And I said, you know, Denise, after building many different types of buildings for 30 years, I think we can figure out the architecture. But what's really what I'm not good at, and I think what we really need to focus on, are how do we develop the services and the programs for people to learn how to live independently. And with that in mind, we started defining what were the population that we were trying to serve. We were very intentional. This First Place was never about serving the easiest to serve, like we find with so many programs today. It was the opposite. It was about learning how to serve the hardest to serve. It was about learning how to serve the young men and women whose parents thought that they could never leave their sight. We started defining what that was, and they were pretty basic. They couldn't be self-injurious, they couldn't be injurious to other people, and they needed to go to the bathroom by themselves. And with that in mind, we started our journey, and we learned about a great program at Taft College, which is a little town outside of Bakersfield. Who would have thought that at Taft College that one of the most innovative programs for people with autism would exist? So Denise and a couple of us flew to Taft College, and we met this man, Jeff Ross, who had just done an amazing job with this 2-year program for young men and women with autism to learn how to live more independently. The first year they lived on site. They would go to classes, and they wouldn't be about geography or math. You would walk into a classroom and there would be 4 different types of stoves because people had to learn how to cook on different types of stoves. The second year they moved into homes around the campus, and I had a chance to go to one of those homes. It was a home that a bunch of young women were living at, and one was more vocal than the others. And I will never forget this because it was so impactful. She looked at her professor and she said, you know, my parents never thought I would live independently. Look at me now. Those are the things that motivated us all through this journey. We then flew to San Jose, California, because there was a low-income housing tax credit program on the light rail in San Jose that had a set-aside for people with disabilities. And we needed to see what that looked like. So we flew up there, and coincidentally, the unit that they showed us was lived in by a young man who was getting ready to get on the light rail and go to his job But the interesting coincidence was that he had recently graduated from Taft College. So we knew that the program worked. And you know how Denise is. You know, Jeff was gainfully employed at Taft College. Well, he became one of our first employees at First Place. She cherry picks the best. And then we started the journey of developing First Place, which you see the reality today. And I would challenge you, I don't think that you'll ever see a better built building with a higher level of quality and more thoughtfully designed than this building is for its residents. And as a builder for 30 years, I can tell you that that's the most important thing, is to always design your buildings with your residents in mind. So that was the beginning of the journey. I think that the most impactful thing for me along the way was listening to some parents as we created the pilot project called 29 Palms so that we could test some of our theories before we built First Place. And after 1 year of their son living at 29 Palms, they said that their 35-year-old son had always lived at home, never had relationships with other peers, never ever took public transportation, never had a job, and they never thought that he was capable of that. 1 year later, he was doing all of those things. I was surprised this morning meeting some parents here at First Place. Their son has been here for 2 months, and they said the same thing. We never thought our son could leave our site. 2 months later, this young man surprised all of them and had some chocolate cake here and decided that he wanted to make some chocolate cake. So he took Uber to Fry's, he bought the ingredients, and he came back here and he cooked himself a chocolate cake. His parents never ever thought that that would happen. That's 2 months after living here. So these projects only come together because the community comes together and supports opportunities like this. And we've been very blessed between SARC, First Place, United Healthcare, the Maricopa County IDA, the Phoenix IDA. The City of Phoenix has always been a great partner in these efforts. The Maricopa County has always been a great partner in these efforts. And we at the state have tried our best to be great partners in these efforts. The word I'd like to leave you with is disruptive, because we have been disruptive in this process. We've broken barriers. We've overcome many, many, many obstacles. And I can tell you, in my position currently at the Department of Economic Security, that's incredibly needed in our community. There are so many barriers that we've put in place that keep people from reaching their potential. And one of the things that we did when I started at DES was we decided what our true north was going to be, and I'll paraphrase it to simply what the punchline is, and that's helping people achieve their potential. So thank you for all of your support. This is just the beginning, because I'm telling you, there's going to be a First Place 2 and a First Place 3 and a First Place 4, because this is not permanent living. This is a transitional living academy. And as our graduates leave this wonderful place and move out into the community, they're not all going to be the same. So we need to create different living opportunities for them, and that's the next phase of our journey. Thank you very much.
Well, good morning, everyone. I'm very excited about this day, and I will tell you that it doesn't seem like it was that long ago, but it was a few years back, where Denise came to my office with 2 armfuls of plans and spread them out in our conference room on our boardroom table and said, "I've got this idea, and I want you to be a part of it. We want to tap into your relationship as the president and CEO of the Arizona Restaurant Association, and we want to bring that craft, if you will, to First Place." And it was a good meeting, and I said, "You know, Denise, there's a reason why I'm the head of the association and I don't own a restaurant. It's because I don't know how to cook. So if you think I'm going to be able to tell you how to equip a kitchen, you're absolutely wrong, but I want to help." So the meeting concludes. We wrap up we roll up the plans, and I hand them back to Denise, and then she says, "Oh, no, 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 no. Those are your set." And that's when I knew I was sunk. That's when I knew, and only the way that Denise can do it, that I was now going to be an official part of this journey. And so we began. And you know, elected officials, we stand behind these podiums and we tell you all the great things we do. We take credit for the things we have nothing to do with. And we talk about process and we talk about progress. This is a half of an unveiling at the moment. But Denise, make no mistake, this is the embodiment of what she has done, not in this valley, but in this state. And to, I'm Lebanese, so I get emotional. To your parents, don't cry, because then you'll make me cry. To your parents, to your husband, to your sister, to your family. To your dad, when we went to Spencer's for 3 hours to look at refrigerators, washing machines. I didn't know they had that many makes. Cooktops. This is the embodiment of what Denise Resnick and her family has created for us. We talk about government, about handing out a paycheck, or handing out a check, instead of handing out an opportunity. We're taking the easy way out. This is the paradigm shift. This is progress. We have to understand that this is not a ribbon cutting. This is what we should be doing and what we have been doing. But this, I think, is the capstone to what success really, really means and what the paradigm shift really, really, really means. And handing someone this opportunity to be able to go, as Mike just said, to Fry's. Wow. As a parent myself, I could only imagine what you would go through. We're doing the same thing with kids, with the young adults with Down syndrome in the East Valley. That is why we're here. That's why we're the fastest growing county in America. And so I'm here to celebrate. I think first place is a trumpet. It's a trumpet for what is ahead. It's a trumpet of what we've been able to succeed and how our success has brought us to this point in the past. And I'm excited not only for you, Denise, and what the next steps are, but for the residents in here whose lives are being changed today. President Nixon had a quote. He said, "Show me a man or woman that has faced adversity in their life, and I'll show you someone that's done something with their life." This is doing something with your life. Thank you, Denise, and thank you for letting us be a part of it. Mayor Williams.
I think the moral of the story for me is never underestimate the power of a woman who is determined to make things right. And I've known Denise for a long time and have heard her over and over what she was going to do. And I am a firm believer in what her goals were, but I never have had that much imagination. I never had that strong community spirit to go out and accomplish and take that long to do it. I am so proud of her. I am so honored that she has made Phoenix the world-class autism city. I will tell you from a personal perspective, I know what families face, and I know how hopeless, helpless, and frustrated families can be. And you don't see options out there. You don't know what to do, and you think, what happens when I'm gone? Where do they go? What do they do? And I'm actually convinced that there are probably thousands of people who live on our streets that have fallen into exactly that category. And I am hoping and praying that the state, the county, and the city will work to make sure that we have homes like this that address these problems throughout this county. and the state. If we really want to help people, this is how you do it. And when you get a whole community behind you, all the businesses, the organizations, the financial contributions, the personal care, we can make it happen. And that's what's exciting to me. I know we have a council who is very committed to helping people, and I know I have already talked to Steve and Layla, and we are already saying we've got to get this done and we need to start on it this year. So I am very hopeful that we can take her plans and make it happen. This is the most spectacular facility. I don't know if all of you have had an opportunity to tour, but you will be so impressed, whether it's learning how to cook, playing in Legoland, doing the exercises, or just meditating in the room. It is a powerful scenario for people who need it so badly, and such a relief to families to know that their child can be independent, has a future, and will probably be employable and be able to get from a job and live with others on their own. You are truly an angel, and all the people that have helped you, especially your family who has been so committed to this and spent so much time and effort, you are treasures. So thank you all very much, and thank you for your continued support. And remember, this is the first one, not the last one. Thank you.
Well, as we know, the real estate has taken a lot, but the real estate is just one part of the picture. How the property lives and breathes and how people live their lives can only happen through this community of kindness that we've created and this culture made possible by our First Place team and staff who are working with us day and night to figure out how things operate and how they should operate, and challenging some of our assumptions. And it's at this time that Rob and I are feeling very comfortable that Matt will be making his home here next month. For the past few months, yes, that's a big deal. For actually the past few years, that young man has taken more hard hat tours and trips to this property than probably many of you combined. And for the past few months, he's been spending a lot of time here, kind of like day camp before you do the sleepover thing. But we are getting ready for Matt to make that transition, and we are truly fortified by this community of kindness, by the team, and by our neighbors. And I am excited to introduce you to a very special neighbor, Lindsay Eaton, who some of you met during the SARC annual community breakfast, who has a few things she wants to share about her life at First Place. Lindsay?
Hi, my name is Lindsay Eaton, and I have autism. I am a member of the Council of Resident Engagement Corps, plans events for students, trains staff, and creates a fun living environment for all. I want to speak to you about what life is like at First Place Phoenix. I first started out as a First Place Transition Academy participant. I learned how to cook my own meals, budget my own money, take the light rail and Uber, and how to interview for jobs. I work not one, but 2 jobs. I work at Zoyo Neighborhood Yogurt as our customer engagement specialist. I also work at the Arizona School Boards Association. I greet guests, shred papers, handle big mailers, and anything else my coworkers need help with. We are one big happy work family. We laugh together and talk about our families, pets, work, and sports. We also host fun company events. Last December, we celebrated our holiday party at Payne Bianco, and we played a fun Guess the Song game. They go above and beyond to make sure I am included in company events, which means a lot to me. At the end of each day, I make sure to say goodbye to my supervisors, Ellen and Christy. Before I moved in to First Place Phoenix, my parents were more nervous than me. They were nervous that I wouldn't be able to be supported. I have the help of amazing support specialists, and I have Transition Academy staff checking in to see how I am doing. They thought that I struggled with keeping a budget. Now I have the ability to keep my budget within a certain amount of money. They thought I struggled to stay fit. I have started using the Good Life Fitness Center on floor 2 to work out after hearing many people, including my supervisors, say they work out. They worried about my social life. I have made friends with many residents as well as new Transition Academy students. I have made plans to try and watch a movie in the community room with William, one of the new students. Thank you for coming on the tour of the place I call home.
Okay, and now it is the time for the big reveal. So if I could ask our speakers to stand here, and we're going to need all of your help. We're going to ask you to count to 3.